What if I told you that Johnny Depp, one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars, is stepping away from the world of blockbuster films and reinventing himself as something completely different, an indie visionary? Sounds surprising, doesn't it? For decades, we've known Depp as the man behind unforgettable characters like Captain Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, and Willy Wonka. But now, at a point where most actors might choose to slow down or stick to safe roles, Depp is making a bold shift that could change the way we see him forever. It's not every day that an actor of Depp's caliber takes such a dramatic turn. And yet, if you've been following him closely, you'll know he's never been one to follow Hollywood's rulebook. He's always chosen unusual roles, always leaned into characters that felt risky, and always gone against the grain. That rebellious streak is part of what made him an icon in the first place. But what he's doing now takes things to a whole new level. So what exactly is happening? Why is Johnny Depp, a man who has conquered Hollywood, moving into indie cinema? Let's break it down together. To understand this new chapter, we have to rewind a little. Johnny Depp has never really been about safe choices. He built his career on the strange, the eccentric, the oddball roles that other actors might have avoided. Think about it. When everyone else was chasing action heroes and romantic leads, Depp was playing a scissor-handed recluse in a gothic fairy tale. He was transforming himself into a pirate who slurred his words, staggered across ships, and became one of the most beloved characters in modern cinema. He was never about being conventional. That's exactly why audiences fell in love with him. He made weird cool and he made different unforgettable. But as time went on, Hollywood changed. Studios started chasing franchises more than artistry. The system began rewarding predictability over creativity. For Depp, someone who thrives on breaking the mold, that environment must have felt limiting. And after years of personal struggles, public battles, and endless tabloid headlines, it seems like he's decided to reclaim his story. Not just as an actor, but as a creator. That's where indie films come in. Independent cinema is where stories breathe. It's where filmmakers experiment, take risks, and tell stories that don't need to appeal to everyone. These aren't films built on massive special effects or global merchandising deals. They're smaller, more intimate, and often far more meaningful. And now Johnny Depp is throwing himself into this world head first. Think about what that means. Instead of starring in the next billion-dollar franchise, he's working on films with tighter budgets, smaller crews, and narratives that dig deep into humanity. These aren't just roles. They're statements. Every indie film he chooses is a way of saying, I'm not here for spectacle anymore. I'm here for the art. Of course, some people might wonder, why take this risk? Why leave behind the comfort of Hollywood when he could easily keep landing massive roles and earning huge paychecks? The answer, I think, is simple: control and authenticity. In Hollywood, actors are often at the mercy of studios and executives. Even the biggest names sometimes have little say in how a film turns out. But in the indie world, Depp has more freedom. He can produce, direct, and shape projects the way he wants them to be. He's not just the face on the poster. He's the driving creative force behind the work. And here's the really fascinating part. This isn't just a career pivot. It's also a personal statement. After years of public battles that almost overshadowed his artistry, Depp is showing the world he's more than a headline. He's reminding us why he became a legend in the first place, not because of gossip, but because of his ability to disappear into roles and bring stories to life in a way only he can. Insiders say this might actually be perfect timing. The indie film scene is stronger than ever. Streaming platforms have created a huge audience for these kinds of stories. Viewers are hungry for something raw, authentic, and different. People are tired of formula-driven blockbusters that all look the same. And who better to deliver fresh, unconventional stories than Johnny Depp, the man who built a career on being unpredictable? Film critics are already paying attention. One even said, Depp isn't escaping Hollywood, he's redefining it. And honestly, that's exactly what it feels like. He's not abandoning his past, but he's rewriting his future on his own terms. Imagine the kind of impact this could have. If Depp succeeds, he could inspire other A-list actors to take similar risks, moving away from cookie-cutter roles and embracing stories that actually challenge them, and the rumors swirling around his next moves are only adding fuel to the fire. Some reports suggest he's not just acting in these projects, but also producing them. Some even say he's stepping into the director's chair for the first time in years. If that's true, it means Depp will have full creative control, choosing the stories, shaping the performances, and even guiding the visuals. That's not just reinvention, that's transformation. Now let's pause for a second and think about what this could mean for fans. We're so used to seeing Johnny Depp in huge Hollywood spectacles. But imagine watching him in a raw, stripped-down performance. No CGI, no big sets, no over-the-top costumes. Just Depp, his craft, and a story that cuts straight to the heart. That could be powerful. That could remind the world why he's considered one of the greatest actors of his generation. And let's be real. This move isn't without risks. Indie films don't always get the same exposure as big-budget blockbusters. They don't always guarantee box office success. There's always the chance that some projects could go unnoticed. But for Depp, this doesn't seem to be about money or fame anymore. It's about legacy. It's about creating art that will outlast the noise. Now, when I say risks, I mean real risks. Hollywood operates on visibility. The bigger the film, the bigger the budget, the bigger the campaign, and the more eyes on the star. For decades, Depp thrived in that system. His name alone could sell tickets worldwide. When you saw Johnny Depp on a poster, you knew it was going to be a spectacle. Pirates of the Caribbean proved that in the most dramatic way possible. Billions at the box office, a character that became a pop culture phenomenon, and global recognition that few actors ever achieve. But here's the trade-off. Indie films don't work like that. They don't plaster every bus, billboard, and YouTube pre-roll ad with their trailer. They don't have toys, theme park rides, or fast food tie-ins. They live and die on word of mouth, on critical acclaim, and on a small but passionate audience that's hungry for something different. That's where the danger lies. If Depp throws himself into indie films and they don't resonate, it could look like he's faded from relevance. People might say, he used to be a star, but now he's doing these little movies nobody sees. That's the risk he's taking. But on the flip side, think about the reward. In the indie world, success isn't measured in billions. It's measured in cultural impact, in awards, in lasting influence. An indie film might not be seen by everyone, but the people who do see it often carry it with them for life. Think about movies like Lost in Translation or Moonlight or even something like Whiplash. They weren't blockbusters in the traditional sense, but they became cultural touchstones. They became proof that small stories can leave a massive footprint. If Depp attaches himself to projects of that caliber, he doesn't just stay relevant. He redefines himself. And let's not forget, money isn't the driving force here anymore. Depp has had wealth, he's had fame, he's had global adoration. What's left for him now is legacy. When people look back on his career 50 years from now, they're not going to care about how much Pirates 5 made. They're going to care about the roles that changed cinema, the characters that stood the test of time, the performances that left people speechless. By stepping into indie films, Depp is chasing the kind of immortality that money can't buy. Of course, there's another layer to this risk. Indie films demand vulnerability. There's nowhere to hide behind special effects, huge set pieces, or extravagant costumes. If the story doesn't work, the performance is exposed. If the actor isn't convincing, the whole film collapses. For someone like Depp, who's been known for larger-than-life characters, this is uncharted territory. Can he strip it all back? Can he deliver the kind of raw, restrained performance that indie cinema thrives on? If he can, it'll silence every critic who ever doubted him. But if he can't, the backlash could be brutal. And then there's the audience question. Will fans follow him? Depp has one of the most loyal fan bases in the world, but loyalty is tested when the product changes. Fans who loved Jack Sparrow's chaos might not be the same ones who line up for an intimate drama about art, grief, or politics. Some will follow no matter what, but others might not. It's a gamble, and Depp knows it. But here's why I think this gamble is worth it. The world is changing. Audiences are changing. People are tired of formulaic movies where they know the ending 10 minutes in. They're craving authenticity, honesty, and something that feels human. Streaming platforms have cracked open the door for indie films to reach audiences that never would have found them before. A small movie can drop on Netflix, Amazon, or Apple and suddenly be seen by millions. The playing field has shifted. What used to be a risk is now an opportunity. Depp isn't just betting on himself, he's betting on this new world of storytelling. And think about the timing. After years of very public battles, his name has been tied to controversy more than artistry. Headlines have overshadowed his work. But indie films give him a way to shift that narrative. They allow him to rebuild, not as a tabloid figure, but as an artist again. Every small project he does, every story he tells, becomes proof that he's still here, still working, still creating. In some ways, the risk of going unnoticed might be exactly what he needs. It gives him space to breathe, space to heal, and space to remind the world of his craft without the weight of expectation. And here's another thought. Other actors have done this and thrived. Look at Matthew McConaughey. For years, he was known for rom-coms and light roles. Then he pivoted to indie dramas, gave raw, powerful performances in films like Dallas Buyers Club, and completely reinvented himself. That pivot earned him an Oscar and a second life in Hollywood. Look at Robert Pattinson. He went from Twilight heartthrob to indie darling with films like Good Time and The Lighthouse, and suddenly he's respected as one of the most daring actors of his generation. Even Joaquin Phoenix, before Joker, he was building his reputation on indie projects that proved his range and depth. Depp stepping into indie films could very well be the same kind of reinvention, but there's one key difference. Johnny Depp isn't starting fresh. He's not trying to build a reputation. He's trying to protect one. He already has the fame, the recognition, the iconic characters. What he's doing now is saying, don't remember me just for the blockbusters. Remember me for the art. That's not an easy thing to do. It's almost harder because people think they already know who he is. Changing minds at this stage takes courage. It takes commitment. And it takes the willingness to risk failure. So yes, some indie projects may go unnoticed. Some might not land. Some might not even make it to wide release. But when you think about Depp's long career, you realize this is the same man who once played a scissor-handed outsider in a gothic love story that no one thought would work. The same man who turned a drunken, slurring pirate into one of the most beloved characters of all time, even when Disney executives didn't believe in him at first. He's always been underestimated, and he's always turned that underestimation into triumph. Why should this chapter be any different? At the end of the day, it comes down to this. Depp isn't chasing the spotlight anymore. He's chasing meaning. And meaning is timeless. A blockbuster might dominate the headlines for a few months, but an indie masterpiece can echo for decades. He's choosing to bet on the echo instead of the noise. So yes, it's risky. But isn't that what art is supposed to be? Isn't that what Johnny Depp has always stood for? Taking the path no one expects, even when it scares him? Maybe that's why, even with all the uncertainty, this feels less like the end of his career and more like the boldest beginning yet. What's even more exciting is that this isn't the end of his journey. It's the beginning of a whole new chapter. With several indie projects rumored to be in the works, plus possible surprise announcements at film festivals, it feels like Depp is gearing up for a creative renaissance. And honestly, I think the world is ready for it. So here's the big question for you. What do you think of Johnny Depp's boldest move yet? Do you think he's making the right call by stepping away from Hollywood blockbusters and diving into indie cinema? Or do you think he's taking a dangerous gamble with his career? I'd love to hear your thoughts because this isn't just a Hollywood story, it's a story about risk, reinvention, and the power of starting over, even when you're already at the top. And if this fascinates you, you're definitely going to want to dive deeper into the other sides of Depp's transformation. His most emotional Dior Sauvage campaign, for example, showed us a whole new side of him that felt raw and authentic. That's another chapter in the same story we're talking about today, the story of a man who refuses to be defined by the past and who is constantly creating new ways to express himself. So, if you're curious, check out that breakdown after this video. It'll give you even more perspective on who Johnny Depp is becoming. And before you head out, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this conversation. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the stories behind the stars. And of course, turn on notifications so you never miss the next big twist in Hollywood. Because if Johnny Depp has shown us anything over the years, it's that his story is never predictable. Every time we think we know where it's going, he surprises us. And right now, as he steps into the indie world, he's proving once again that he's not just an actor, he's an artist. And this new chapter, it might just be his boldest move yet.